Welcome back to Guardians Reborn. Today I'm going to discuss a movement option called reinforcement. This seems a little bit confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it and you sit and think about it for a minute, it's actually really useful. What reinforcement is it allows you to move creatures into a shield to, as the name suggests, reinforce it. What that means is if you have a shield that somebody has just absolutely wailed on your next turn, you can send creatures out to help it out. So what I'll do here is I have a setup here, and we have our stronghold. I have this and this terrain down that I control, as well as these two. This one is turned around the other way because that represents my opponent controls this terrain, and that will be important here in a minute. I also have this blank space here. For game terms, I do control it, but there is no terrain here, so it impedes our movement. So let's build a couple shields real quick, okay? So we have a captain, he will be a 10, and a horse that's 3, so that's 13, and we'll just say that's one shield. We will make this shield, and we will move it here, okay? Next, we'll do a swordsman at a 6 and a 10, so it's 16. And we'll make that. Come here. We'll put that shield here. So what we can do, let's go ahead and put some creatures down here. We'll do this corporal at an 8. Horse is 3, so that's 11. An axeman at a 7, and a razor sylph at 5. And here we'll make a big one. The marshal of 11. The swordsman at 6. And the archer at 6. So during the reinforcement phase, we can say we'll take this shield here and we will rotate it, because you rotate a shield to note which shield you are using for this turn. And for lackey purposes, we're going to say we're going to reinforce. So we'll drag the shield to the side and the rest of the shield sits here. Now we have this handy dandy reinforcement tab for this purpose. So we select just our shield and bring it down in here, and it brought our terrain. Don't take the terrain with us. So we turn these face up. And then we have to remember we have our captain and our swordsman. And now, what's interesting is that shieldless creatures can move normal movement without a shield as long as it follows normal movement rules. So we can use this stack here and say it will reinforce one space forward. So we can bring this into here, turn these face up. So now we have our 10 and our 6, so we have 16 normal under the shield. And we can make it a 27 if we wanted to take the marshal. Or we could do 12, 18. We can leave the marshal behind, put him back here, and we have a 10, 6, 6, and 6, so that's 6, 12, 18, 28. Take these and put them back under this shield. There. And what we have done here is we have, this shield has not moved, but the creatures have. So we now have 28 under the shield when before it had 16. The important thing about this shield here is it's out in basically no man's land, because we cannot move through a shield with with shieldless creatures. So we couldn't go take here and go 1, 2, and if we could, he would move here, but that's not under a shield, so we can't do that. We can't go from here 1, 2, because we cannot cross this terrain in the middle, because there's no terrain card here. And this side can only move 2, and that would be into the opponent's terrain. Now, if this shield, say, were here instead, and we'll just, for the sake of purposes, do this, we can, and we'll say this is, let's just ready this shield. Now we have these two shields. We can actually take this shield, actually we'll rotate this one, and if you move it through a shield, so we'll say we'll go here and then back to the stronghold, you can pick up creatures from an unturned shield. So we have our 13, 19, 25. So let's say we wanted to do, we wanted to reinforce this way. Actually, instead of moving to the stronghold, we can move back a space to reinforce and then go right back to where we were. So we can actually, we started on this space, we moved back a space to reinforce here, and then used our second movement to come back right here in our opponent's face. And these two go back face down. Now, what's even more interesting is, since we now have this set up, we can take this here, rotate this shield, and then reinforce it. Give me back that terrain. With these creatures that are in this middle, because we can go 1, 2 to reinforce here. So let's move these down here. And let's see, 10, 16, 19, 27. So we can actually turn this shield that was 16 into a 27. And during our move and organize phase, we have now reinforced this shield to make it larger, and we have reinforced this shield to make it larger while getting creatures off of our strongholds. That also confuses your opponent, and they don't know what it is because they may have attacked this shield here, and you move creatures under this one, so they don't know what's here now. And vice versa, they don't know what's under this one. They may have decimated this one down to those two creatures that were there, and you just dumped a bunch of creatures from here into there and then brought more from your stronghold under here. It's really a mind game on what's going on with reinforcement. And then obviously on your next turn, any shieldless creatures go back to your hand, with which we can turn around and, so what do we have here? Oh, we're under the reinforcement tab. These need to go to the hand. So we can do this all over again. So we can take this 5, move it here, 11 and 7. So this is an 18. and this is an 11. Now, a couple of rules to go along with this. A creature cannot reinforce more than one shield per turn. So you cannot say let's see, what's the top creature? Oh, there's only one here. This Razor Sylph cannot say, okay, well, I'm going to rotate this shield and I'll move the Razor Sylph into here, and then I'll rotate this shield and the Razor Sylph moves to this shield here. That doesn't work. Per the movement rules, it has to stop at the first shield that it comes to. So if you really need this Razor Sylph in this shield here, you would have to physically move this shield first, and then you can move the Razor Sylph 1, 2 up to here for reinforcement. That pretty much covers it. Actually, one more thing. The shields that are moving can only pick up creatures. You cannot drop off. Okay, so that's why we need to make sure of what was here needs to stay in here. And you cannot drop creatures off. You can drop creatures off if you sit here, if you have this shield here, and you bring it back to this stronghold for reinforcement, and we'll say the Razor Sylph was there too. And let's say this throws us, and then say we don't want the captain for whatever reason. So we got 5, 8 is 13, 16, 22. So we can do rebuild this shield. This would actually make it an illegal move because this 10 can't be under this 22. For the purposes of this, I'm just showing off dropping off a creature. So we would take it, he would move back to this terrain, and this would be under here. So we dropped him off. This captain was under the shield, but he is no longer under the shield. You can drop off at strongholds. You can only pick up when moving through shields. Hopefully this enlightens you on reinforcement. It can be a little confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually really fun. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great night.